You look really sexy through the prism. It looks like you're buck-toothed.
Can I have my kratom?
Hey, take them off.
No, I wanna start the podcast.
We're professionals.
What's up, my guys, and welcome back to the Make Me a Sandwich podcast. These are Dan's, what are they?
Prism glasses.
Prism glasses, because the chiropractor told him he was, I'm making dinner sometimes over there, and I'll look over, and Dan's, is this camera a little too?
No, I think you're good.
I don't think I like it, whatever. So sometimes I'll be making dinner and I'll look over and Dan will be sitting on the couch like this.
Usually playing chess.
Yeah, usually playing chess.
Not for the last 10 days.
And you look so geriatric, it's insane. Anyway, we haven't made an episode in a while because we are both severely depressed.
What? Was that a Freudian slip for busy?
No, we've been a little bit severely overwhelmed. So yeah, hopefully this gets us back on track, but we will not be, we might be a couple days late next week because we'll be getting back from Utah.
Look, it's just been a lot.
It's been a lot.
It's been a bit of a transition.
Yes.
Like you posted your story today talking about some of the stuff that's been on your mind.
Yeah.
I've had a major influx with the dating business that I've had to really kind of take a lot of time and dedicate towards. We're working on other things on that front as well. Yeah. Oh, you became a Florida resident. So we had to scramble for a few days because we were afraid we didn't have all the documentation necessary for that.
My license was expiring.
So
my
yeah,
birthday.
Our dog had
explosive diarrhea.
Yeah. So it was it's been a fucking week. So
yeah.
Anyway.
So Dan and we came to an agreement. I'm going to tell you about the agreement. So I started a new thing where we do beach days on Sunday. And we have really good friends that we go to the beach with on Sundays, and it was kind of like my day to put down the technology, because the technology is always in my hands, and relax.
It was a really good 2 weeks that this lasted for.
It was a really good 2 weeks. I bought a cabana. I bought a cart that we wheel onto the beach with all of our stuff in it. I bought a shovel.
That I wheel onto the beach.
Okay, yeah, you wheel onto the beach. I got a shovel to put the sand in the cabana to hold it down. Like, we were just beach goers. And then football started, which I love a good football game. We're big Eagles fans. Like, I love football. And I love making food on football Sundays. But it was just like I lost my beach day, right? Then I thought of a solution. On days that we aren't having people over for food, we can still go to the beach and watch football. So I bought you a really nice gift.
Yeah, well,
I bought us a nice gift.
It's for business as well.
It's for business. It was on the business card. I got an iPad.
But yeah, Red Zone looks a lot better on a tablet.
Which we'll actually be using for business in this podcast.
Yes.
So let's just get into it. We were on the Whatever podcast.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the best way to just spend this episode talking about that fucking hell.
I think we're just going to spend this episode talking about the behind the scenes, real tea on the Whatever podcast and what really goes down.
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about that first. Oh, God, these are so hairy from Ginny.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I've been on the Whatever podcast 4 times.
4 times now.
You've been on there twice.
Yes.
Sorry, I just had to get the tea going.
You're good. So that we could talk about the tea.
So we could talk about the tea.
Yeah.
So you've been on there twice. I've been on there 4 times, and I'm not gonna get into detail about where it is and all, but you go in, and it's not what it looks like really on TV. It's like this really small space. It's cute, right? But it's very close.
And you got to get there early.
You got to get there early.
Because people who haven't been on before need to be told the rules, the regulations, the guidelines for the episode, warnings about YouTube, etc.
Yeah. So, you sign some stuff, you sit down, we figure out the seating arrangement ahead of time. Some people need boosters on their chairs. So,
let's get Dan over here because he's not going to shut up.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
We sort all of that out ahead of time. So, it's not like when the camera turns on, we're just meeting each other. We've all introduced ourselves. We really don't know what each other's opinions are yet, but you could kind of tell by some of them, when somebody shows up with their full nipples out.
Yeah.
you kind of get an idea.
And then sometimes you just hear a little conversation beforehand.
Yeah, so
and
that's...
other times you hear conversations like the ones we fucking heard before this one.
Yeah, so sometimes you'll hear a few conversations, but this time the camera started and I immediately see the chat and everybody's like, Billy Ray and Dan have resting bitch face, they look pissed, and we were. Right. Holy crap. We can't say certain words when we describe the situation. But Brian wasn't sitting at the table or anything, actually. Like, Brian was getting the shit ready. It's just Dan and I there with some girls. And you don't hear the conversation at first. You're on your phone texting your friends the link. And I start overhearing a conversation about... Okay, so two girls. So it was Layla and Bangs.
So there were three girls on the podcast who are involved in the adult industry. One of them is like a legit, again, I don't know what we're allowed to say on YouTube. Corn star, yeah, like a real one.
A real one. Like I've never seen one of these people in real life.
Yeah, I don't think it's one that's like a fucking like household name or anything like that. But like it's a real one. And then the two other ones are on OF. One of which is Bangs, who had been on many a time, a constant guest of the podcast. And then the other one was actually the assistant of the Corn Star. All right, and all of them are talking, and they're kind of having...
The assistant wasn't involved in this conversation.
But then there was a couple of the girls who were there, who were in the middle of our episode, were actually inquiring to some of the goings-on of the industry and the fucking conversations that came out of these questions.
Okay, let me just basically tell you what the conversation was without saying what it was. So it was basically talking about how they prepare for certain... backdoor scenes.
Yes.
Specifically backdoor scenes.
And
in detail, Dan and I are sitting there like, you know, texting family, and I overhear just everything. And we're like, wait, this is and they're like, the Bangs is asking Layla and they're genuinely just intrigued by what each other, like the advice that they're giving each other. And we're like, wait, people actually, like behind the scenes, they're actually like this.
Here's what got me. Whenever I had thought about the industry, I had always thought that it was something where there's probably some shame that comes with it. They do their best to kind of hide behind, to like eliminate some of the shame. They accept their choices. They say, I'm a professional. And they kind of roll with certain types of mind tricks, and they're acting, and really they're just performers and all that stuff. But you don't really hear a ton of them talk about it with like the utmost pride. Like you don't hear people talk about it like they were born to do it, and they know all the tips and tricks, and they learned this from this person. And what I've learned from my experience is you can make this a lot easier by doing this, and I hope you do that. Like it was the most normalizing conversation about something that is incredibly, fundamentally, self-evidently damaging to society as a whole. And hearing them talk about it so nonchalantly got me into this mindset where I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm sitting across the table from actual, like, I'm not a doctor, actual psychopaths. I thought that I was actually dealing with that. And I'm still convinced that one of them definitely is.
Yeah.
So that's what got me geared up, because I realized I wasn't going to be able to like ask my routine questions. I wasn't going to be able to use my normal conversation skills in this one.
Yeah.
I realized that I was sitting across from people who legitimately, fundamentally see the world through a completely different lens from me. And
can you scooch in a bit?
Yeah. And I don't know. I think I was a little bit psyched out by it. I was definitely just pissed off at the idea that people like this are so far gone. We talked about like people being far gone in the corn industry on, I think, our last episode too. But yeah, long story short, I was not feeling good just emotionally going into the fucking beginning of the episode.
Sometimes you think on this podcast they put on an act too. It was not an act.
Yeah.
It was not an act. So it was a little bit disheartening to we got off to a little bit of a sad start. And honestly, to see this in person, it did really make me sad to know that this is like their pride and joy.
And again, we talked about this on the ride home.
We went to In-N-Out. In-N-Out. Why can't I speak tonight?
Yeah, we did go to In-N-Out, which I'm now realizing is a very, very ironic place for us to go after that podcast. But that's the first time I'm realizing that. But we said this, like, I had never really sat in the same vicinity as someone who, like, people throw around, like, the words, like, narcissism, psycho, sociopath.
Narcissist is definitely overused.
I think that's the first legit one.
Yeah.
Where, like, you look at it and you're like, oh, anytime I've ever used this before, it wasn't true because that's what it looks like. That's what it actually looks like. And it was fucking freaky. And in all honesty, I would fucking love to go on another episode with her.
Yeah.
I would love, and we're going to get to why, but I would love to sit down with her again because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff. And even if we don't get to all the clips, there's some few things that we should definitely talk about.
Yeah. So I have this broken down into a couple parts that we're going to react to. This might not be as long as our typical podcast, but
get me talking enough.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So you had this whole thing about benevolent
arguments from intimidation.
Yeah, benevolence and stuff. So I want to tie together the two parts because I don't think a lot of people made the connection of how you just foreshadow this entire incident that happened on the show. So this was really like the juicy part of the show where Bang stormed off. And the lead up to her storming off was honestly all you. I really don't think she stormed off for the one comment, but let's break it down before you say anything. Let's watch it and break it down. So basically, I want to start with where you foreshadowed this whole incident, which is...
Yeah, by the way, just to kind of to talk a little bit.
$1,000.
Hold on.
Well,
there you go.
I didn't make this kind of money selling yoga mats, wedding favors, or candles.
Wait,
I did it with no inventory.
Okay.
There you go. Because what you just said, like, I kind of teed it up, right?
Yeah.
If this was like a golf swing, I did all of the warming up, all of the stretching, selected the club, cleaned the ball, and then got the tee, placed it at the perfect height, and then placed the ball on the tee, and then handed the club to the girl, who then talked about the one thing that triggered this girl.
Yeah.
I
think if this was said earlier in the episode, nothing would have resulted from it.
No,
Anyway, we're not going to react to that first. We're going to first show how you foreshadowed this. I just want to play it, and then we're going to skip to the good part.
Sure.
I have the volume. I don't understand this volume yet.
Yeah.
But there's a thing called the argument from intimidation. Do you know what that is?
No,
that's
but
when
you
people.
can explain it.
That's when people will look at you and be like, "Oh, don't be ridiculous," or "No, you couldn't possibly believe that." This is what girls do all the time. Men do not do it nearly as much. If you're dealing with a guy who does that kind of thing, what he's doing is he's depending or he's relying on your own benevolence, your own kindness to not rebut him. Okay? This is what girls will do. They'll look at a guy, and because men have been told their entire lives, you're toxic, you're cruel, you're aggressive. Basically, men
I
are
love that.
Basically, men are told from the moment they're born.
All right.
Like, and again, it takes a little while to get there, but essentially, people will look at you and they'll, rather than making an actual logical argument to the point that you're discussing, they will make something out to make them the victim and you the oppressor, so that therefore they are the ones who are correct because they are the victim. They are relying on your benevolence to then stop rebutting them and stop making the point because it's upsetting them. That's essentially what it comes down to. So that was the point that was made in like the very, very early part of the episode.
That was at 14 minutes in. Now we're at 2 hours and 40 minutes in, and let's see how this comes full circle. All right. Let me know if you just pause it if you have something to say.
That's okay.
They're men.
My mom
No,
used
they're
to be.
Yes, they are.
They're not.
Yes, they
They're
are.
afraid of being judged by women.
Exactly.
No,
And her
I would
friends.
never
Yeah.
judge a man if he got assaulted.
If
I
you got
would never do
assaulted,
that.
came back crying to you.
No,
oh my God.
how is
yeah,
that?
you would never.
Okay,
you
you're
wouldn't.
I wouldn't judge him. I've been in that position. I've been in that position where I've
really
been
sorry.
assaulted.
There it is. So she says, I've been in that position. I've been in that position where I've been assaulted, right? So now she's been at this with me. And we started this a little bit late into this discussion about violence against men and statistics and all that stuff, because she was convinced that women are the recipients of way more violence than men are, which is just objectively, statistically not true. And we had been at this for a couple of minutes. At every point she made, I was able to very, very quickly shut down. And then at this point, she's just getting tired of the fact that she can't break through the argument. So
Did you want me to start this sooner, or
No.
we're good here?
No, we're good. And she sets up the rest of her defense of her side with, no, I would never do that because I've been in that position where I've been assaulted, right? So now she's the victim. In other words, stop yelling at me because you're being mean and you're attacking a woman who's been assaulted. That's essentially what she's coming from.
I'm so sorry.
I've been in that position. Why would I ever go
I'm laughing.
and turn the tables and be like, you're whatever, you're worthless, you deserve that? Why would I ever do that? I'd be there. I'm a good person.
No.
And for you to make that assumption is fucking terrible.
This is the thing.
You're terrible, sir.
I'm a good person. And for you to make that assumption,
Don't interrupt me, sir.
right? But literally, I'm a good person, and for you to make that assumption. So now I'm the bad guy because I have not made an assumption. I've made an objective point. And again, right now we are talking about the idea of men being afraid of being judged by women, right? Which is very much true. And that's not part of the statistical argument, but it's a point that can be easily backed up by other discussion points. And in order to escape the discussion, she's using, I'm a good person and you're a bad person for calling me out or arguing with me. And again, if we go back probably, 10 seconds, it'll happen again.
And I turn the tables and be like, you're whatever, you're worthless, you deserve that. Why would I ever do that? I'd be there. I'm a good person.
No.
And for you to make that assumption is fucking terrible.
This is the thing where she's
You
do
would
not make that
no,
assumption.
again, remember my thing earlier about how women are depending on my
I
own
have
benevolence to
something
ignore the
There it
point.
is.
Very
This is
important
what
to say
they
about
do.
that.
Okay? This is what they do.
Yep. And that, I think, is probably the last. I think I made one more point to her about how she was saying that I was saying she didn't care about the person. And then I said, no, I'm saying that you wouldn't be attracted to that person. Mm-hmm. So that was like the final point that I was making, where again, she made a false assessment of the point that I was making. I corrected her. And from there, she literally just sat back in her chair. And I don't think she said anything else until the moment where she went out. So
How dare you make that assumption about me?
how dare you?
You deserve a lot more. I'm so sorry that happened.
But wait a second. What are you
so
saying?
sorry.
But
Genuinely,
what are
I'm
you
so
assuming?
sorry.
You're assuming that I don't care. That I'm saying you don't care about that person?
No,
No,
you just
I'm
said
saying you would be unattracted to him as a man. Yes.
No, I wouldn't. And here you go,
Objectively.
making another assumption, sir. Here
Well,
you go, making
so
another assumption.
Basically,
I would never. I would never.
Excuse me, you're interrupting a woman, you sexist.
hold on. Okay. So
woman is speaking.
she's saying it's basically women are getting more abuse than men.
Look at Bang's, her body language. She's had it. She's done.
She can't possibly go further. Like she's there's been 2 hours of this.
Keep an eye.
They
Keep an
used
eye.
to beat me
Look
every
at
day
it.
until I was removed from the home. So women do cause a lot of assault. They really do.
They do.
And blaming it straight on men, saying that women have no rights. Well, then why did my mom do
Do you
that?
know which children are most likely to be abused?
Um,
Single mother children.
she wasn't a single mom. My dad
Yeah.
just had PTSD and she
But my
never had to
point
control
being-
it.
Single motherhood child abuse happens at a higher rate than two-family households.
Two parents.
I'm the seventh kid.
And single father households.
I am
It's where
seventh
most of the
kid.
child abuse occurs.
Yeah, but just saying that, pushing all these problems onto men, that's actually what's wrong with society. I think everything is an equal thing. Everything should be completely equal. We have every single right that a man does, and logistically, we are getting
I don't even
paid,
know if she's listening at this
49
point.
cents more than men in every single job. Actually, like office jobs, we're getting paid more than men. We have so many rights because we fought for so long. They really are. And I don't want to say that.
And then
I don't think that there's a wage gap. But
this is the
We
wage
have
gap.
the spreadsheet.
There's the
Guys,
wage gap.
we have the spreadsheet.
We talked about this the night
No,
before.
ready?
Yes.
That's true. That's
I
true.
shouldn't-
This is a really good stat. We talked about this at dinner.
Okay, so the actual wage gap, in I believe it's North America. It's either North America or the United States. As of 2020, is 17 cents. Women make 83 cents to that of men. That's all men and women.
She's still staring off into
If you look
space.
specifically at men and women under the age of 30 who work full-time jobs, it's 93 cents. And in most of the major metro areas where women are complaining the loudest about the wage
which
gap,
are predominantly liberal.
they outgain men.
Yes.
Okay, in New York, women, I believe, make 101%.
They're complaining about
That girl looks so much like Lindsay Lohan. Am I the only one noticing?
Which one?
This one. The girl next to me.
Oh, she was a story in and of herself on this podcast.
Yeah,
but
we'll get into that in a
she
second.
does have a little bit of Lindsay Lohan
She
there.
does.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm trying to figure out how much longer it is until
It's coming up.
it's coming up here.
Yeah.
working 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
That is
Look at her. She is
But my
dejected.
point is, the wage gap, but when we say the wage gap is a myth, that whole thing, first of all, there's a reason the wage gap exists, and there's also a reason why it gets higher the older you get, because women decide to do things like take leave to take care of children. You can't take 3-4 years off from work, come back and be like, I can't believe the guy who was making the same amount as me 4 years ago is now making more than me. Like, you can't make that complaint. You can't do that. So most of the women who complain the loudest, which are young females in major metro areas, they have literally nothing to complain about. Nothing. To your point,
They're bored.
they have the same degree of equality as men.
Think about
everything.
Think about how like that first conversation, she was like, I'm talking about how like men are toxic, men are this. I love that. Like giggling, laughing, trying to like come at. I remember there were a couple other clips where I'm like talking to Layla and she's going like, oh my God, like you're so miserable, Dan. You're miserable. Now, after this discussion, she's like, she can't. So she's just completely back in her seat, won't even participate, probably not even listening at this point. And who the hell knows what is going through her head? Probably, I don't want to be here. That's probably what was going through her head.
Men do. Everything that you say about what men think about women or what Hiremenders think about women is what you think they think is completely unfalsifiable.
I completely agree with all of
By the way,
that.
I know I'm kind of like shouting this at you. I'm shouting out of agreement. It's just...
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just
I know you
very
don't disagree with me on
nonchalant.
this.
I'm very nonchalant. But it's feminism. I don't like saying it's a bad topic. I mean, if you're a feminist, you're a feminist. You just obviously don't realize how much far we've gotten in America.
I think she feels embarrassed.
Or how they frame
You're
feminism
talking to a
now.
woman right here, okay? Can you stop being sexist,
What if
please?
I'm not a woman?
Here.
Huh?
What if I have a penis right now?
Then literally I would ask you to get therapy because all of that in between is fine. But when you are biologically born with a vagina, you're a girl, and when you're born with a penis,
I'm out of here.
you're a male.
Wait,
No, that's fucking transphobic as fuck.
Wait, what?
Fuck you for that.
The thing is, this didn't even fit into the conversation.
Yeah,
like, this was so random.
Yeah.
It didn't even make sense for her to walk off.
It was literally like a Brian Layla aside. And this girl, all she had to do, think about all the shit that gets said about that subject online. And all this girl said was, if you are born with a penis, you're a man. If you're born with a vagina, you're a woman.
And that
it was that's like the 2015 talking point on this. It's like talk about like OG based, right? And that's what sends Bangs out after 2.5 hours of all the shit that we talked about.
Doing her best
Wait,
makeup.
come on.
That's it. That's all.
Yeah. And then she went, by the way, she legit stormed out.
She left.
Like there was no like talking back over the top. There was no like thanks for having me. There was no like
gone.
little things, but with like the
And
producer.
then Layla
no.
tried to run out and make sure she was okay.
Yeah, and I don't know, but yeah, that's a little bit more of a peek into like the actual buildup of what happened, because I think a lot of the context as to sort of why she realized that she had nothing is because she walked into exactly what I had predicted earlier in the episode, and then she also realized that she just had nothing to come back with. She had nothing. Everything was emotion, and it gets to a point where listen, it's rare that I find somebody who can actually keep up with me. That's not an intellectual pat on the back. That's how long I can talk for. But this is just...
I just have to say, our washing machine runs for 4 hours, and I accidentally started it before this, so I'm sorry if you hear it in the background. I'm not sorry to you. I'm sorry to them.
Yeah, well, for the Make Me a Sandwich podcast, it kind of tracks the dishwasher would be running.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're good. Okay. But yeah, there's a little bit more context into that one. That was like the juicy part of the episode. There's some other stuff that hasn't really been clipped.
That we're about to get into.
That hasn't really been clipped as much, but we're going to start talking about it a little bit because there's some really interesting stuff.
All right. So basically, 6 minutes later, we're trying to figure out, why she walked out and all. And Dan makes the point. Dan makes this point.
She probably just, the worst words about trans. I was trolling, but,
I am so completely and utterly repulsed by the way that you live your life. Did I storm off the set?
So, wait. So let's go back. And when you hear her say, "That's so hot," watch the girl in the tan shirt go, waiting for me to react. Watch the girl right here.
Trolling, but,
I am so completely and utterly repulsed by the way that you live your life. Did I storm off the set? Did
I did see it.
Off the set?
Are you, trying to make me horny right now?
No, but
she likes to be
working.
Be careful. Be careful. She's been soaking for
the scene is getting kind of
yikes.
Okay, so we start getting into this talk towards you, which then leads up to her flirting with Brian as well.
Yeah.
And then we get here.
I forget this girl's name.
I forget
her name. She was sweet. I liked her.
Yeah, she was a liberal.
Yeah, not for long.
Yeah. Okay, here's another thing I have to say. I don't know, these 3 girls in the back here, I don't know what they have to gain from going on this podcast. They all have, they're not, influencers. What are they are they just on here for fun? Why do these people... I don't have a problem with it. I'm just so curious as to why they, have this lifelong... they don't have a public life. Why do they put themselves on this platform where they will have a lifelong footprint? For this one girl talking about her 3 abortions and sugar daddy.
Yeah. Or even something as simple as,
she's somebody with a quiet life. Why do they subject themselves to
or even just the girl in the tan, coming on and talk. And by the way, she handled everything, I thought, fairly well. But even coming on and talking about her dating past and her body count and things it's like you're with a boy. It's like you have a boyfriend. Yeah. It's now what happens if his boys watch the episode and now they're giving him a hard time because of you talking about basically it's saying anything you could think of as to getting a used car or yo, she chose you finished last, you're the nice guy that finished last, all this shit. Basically you're just setting yourself up.
I understand if they want to be influencers and this is exposure for them, but I don't understand when you live a quiet life, why would you want to put this on the internet?
Yeah, it's...
I don't know.
Word of advice from two people who do it. If you don't have a reason to put things on the internet, just don't. Don't. Do not do it.
But if you guys have any thoughts
on why people would do this,
why people subject themselves to this, we would love to know because we can't figure it out.
Yeah, it's like that girl's 23 and looking to go to school, get into programs, get a job, and it's what happens? What happens if they do a quick little search on her and they find her name and her social media, and they're just oh, you went on the whatever podcast? Yeah. We don't do all it takes is association to something like this.
I actually think going on the whatever podcast is banned at a lot of UCSB school. What's that school near it?
UCSB? Yeah, Santa Barbara.
Going on the whatever podcast, if you're in a frat or
a sorority,
you they've banned you making appearances on there.
Right.
So yeah. Anywho, let's go to. So she starts flirting with you and Brian.
Right.
And then this was a really.
I wouldn't call it flirting, by the way.
Well, I don't know what the term is. It's not flirting.
Coming on to, straight up.
We're at 3:01:42.
What is it? I don't know. But usually there is a point.
No,
Is he guy?
the point is this. There's one difference between friends and a person that you would consider yourself to be in a relationship with.
She's like
and
my
it's sex.
sister.
Okay?
Yeah, she really is.
That is the only thing that makes it different. Okay, the way that you go about your life, you're just like, I just love sex. I want to fuck this guy.
But
Oh,
not
what about this guy?
girls. Ew.
Like, oh, I just want to fuck. I just want to fuck. What about this guy? Oh, I could fuck him. That would be fun. That would be. There's nothing
Like Game of Thrones.
meaningful about your relationship.
I love it.
with anybody.
I have so much fun. She's
Yeah,
great.
what's the meaning behind that? You
And
just give me the pleasure
Zerka
constantly.
is like my best friend. Like he really
Have you
is
ever,
like my
like, free
best
dived or
friend.
surfed or,
Like
like-
he has amazing sex
Fun?
with me.
Okay, I just need to say that was another thing that got us annoyed when we were sitting at the table when we first sat down before it started. I still don't know who the Zerka guy is. But immediately after she sat down at the table, she was like, "Do you know who John Zerka is? I'm dating him." That was like her introduction to us.
Yeah. I don't know if she's trying to like find common ground on like
It
dating
was
some guy
so
in the red pill
bizarre.
community.
And then the
or-
whole podcast talking about him.
it almost felt like clout chasing.
And this guy, from what I know, is like a red pill guy. And then you have this girl that's dating you, talking about how she sleeps with all these dudes and walks around your house naked and sits on your friends naked. What does this say for this guy that like demands respect from women?
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I think like
I don't, do you know stuff about him? I don't know anything.
look. I think he's a Twitch streamer who is in on everything from, conspiracy talk to dating and red pill stuff. He actually knows a lot about pickup, like general pickup, like techniques and things like
But
that.
why do these
Like,
guys
but-
that can get like girls of value go after that?
I can't. And by the way, to explain John Zerka would take a while. Like, we haven't even really talked about it at all. But I don't know. So much of the streamer world and the online influencer world, like, I feel like you and I do it, and we look at a lot of the other shit that happens, and we're like, why?
We live in a very small. We don't interact with
like
people.
we don't really interact with a lot of other
We have a couple of
influencers.
friends, but they're not like.
And they're not in our industry.
They're not. No.
Yeah.
We have friends that do like gym content and financial content.
Yeah, like
We don't have any.
we have some big political ties. Like that's about it. And like maybe a couple of influencers who really don't make that big of a scene in our industry have reached out to a couple of us.
Speaking of influencer circles, I'm actually blocked by a few people in the men's dating sphere.
Yeah. So yeah,
I'm not liked.
yeah, it's very
I'm
strange.
not liked.
And the stuff with Zerka and this girl, I have no idea how to explain it. I have no idea what his mission is. I have no idea what her goal of coming on and talking about that stuff. I don't even know if what she's saying is true.
Yeah, she's married to a Mormon bishop.
Yeah,
That's the other thing.
to those of you that didn't watch the episode, she kicked it off with she's married to a Mormon bishop who needed to be married in order to pursue bishophood.
And she's going to go back to him when she's 30, but he wants her to
get all this out now in her 20s.
Yes.
Which, by the way, why did I not think to myself, like, you know how priests aren't even allowed to get married? Like, what, so bishops are, and bishops have to be?
I have no idea.
What the heck is happening right now?
I have no
I don't even know where to go from this. But, yeah, a lot of what she said and did ties back to the clip that we just watched of me and her.
Well,
where
let's continue.
There's no meaning to anything that comes out of her freaking mouth.
Okay, let's continue this. And I think you're going to bring up the fact that she. I'll touch on it in a second.
And he is my best friend. I love hanging out with him. We have the funniest laughs. Like, he's a great guy. Like, he's my best friend. Like, for real.
So stop doing porn. Quit that.
Yeah, I did. I stopped doing porn for him.
Don't date anybody
The whole
else.
thing was that I stopped doing porn.
Stop
for him. I
offering
did, like,
him
a
a
month.
blow.
I just need to say the reason I kept moving so much is because A, within the first 10 minutes of this podcast, I sweat through my shirt and there were sweat stains all over the shirt. So I put on the sweater right away.
Uh-huh.
And B, I tried to figure out how to iron and somehow it shunk.
You're losing brain cells from this.
I am losing brain
Yeah.
cells. It shrunk the fabric of my outfit. I can't begin to. This outfit should have been on a toddler. It was like 3 sizes too small for me to wear. So it was just an unfortunate wardrobe malfunction for 5 hours straight.
Up on a live stream.
It's been a good month.
Be an actual girlfriend to somebody. Actually,
When I'm 30, yeah.
no, No. Do you realize what you're doing to yourself right now? You're completely fucking up the way that your mind works.
It's already been fucked up.
Right. And if you can admit that, why wouldn't you change it?
Because I like it.
You like how fucked up you are.
I like
you
it.
are literally satanic.
Honestly, it turns me on that you say that. Tell me I'm satanic again.
No, and do you realize
Okay.
I let it play just a little bit more.
Okay.
that you're
But why are you making it sexual? Like, let's have like. I know you have a little bit more logic than how you're like coming across.
too strong.
I know you have a little bit more logic than how you're coming across. I get that you're like, oh, like you're turning me on. That's your like
No, that's
defense
bad.
mechanism. Like whatever. It is turning you on. Okay, but like logically, what he's saying
Logically,
to you?
like,
There's
okay,
no
say
meaning
it.
to any relationship
But wait,
that you
wait,
have.
If I was
There's no
Billy right
meaning
now,
to
I would be pissed. 'cause
What
that's
type
just
of?
like
Except
what
what
type
type
of-
of?
Yeah. So again,
Can we talk about the satanic thing? Because you talked about this a lot once we left. And I didn't catch on that you said this until after the podcast.
what,
You said there was nothing.
like,
There was nothing in her eyes.
this goes back to what we said earlier
Like
in this episode of Make Me a Sandwich. Like when I tell you, I looked into the eyes of an actual psycho. Like there was no soul, no meaning, no nothing. When I tell her that nothing that she says has any meaning, and then I say that she's satanic, she is representative of what Satanism is. It's complete nihilism. It's no, don't follow anything righteous. Don't make any good choices. Don't even remotely consider the idea that you might one day be judged for your actions. That goes to the point of what did I say exactly? I said, then be an actual girlfriend. And then she basically said,
I will be one.
I said, I said, you're fucking up the way your mind works. She says, I'm already fucked up. I said, if you could admit that, why won't you change it? She says, because I love it. You cannot be in love with who you
coping mechanism. I think there's a lot of pain in this girl's life.
But she's burying it.
She's burying it. I think she's trying to believe her own lies. And I think that she probably lives in a lot of emotional turmoil. She has to. There's no way when all is said and done and she goes to bed alone at night, there's no way you can lay in bed and feel like you had a fulfilling day and you are genuinely happy.
Unless you don't have feelings. And again, one of the other pieces of this was, because is there more stuff about, well, first of all, there was another part in the episode, I don't know if you have this clip.
I could find it.
Where I look at her and I just go, hey, by the way, shot in the dark, daddy issues? And she goes, oh, yeah.
Wait, I can pull that up. Do you want me to pull it up?
Yeah, go ahead, just so we have the context. But that, along with all the other stuff she had with Brian, the whole time, telling him, like, no, like, one day I will, like, convince, I don't even know what I can say on YouTube anymore, but, like, I will one day, like, S your D. Like, and you're gonna love it. And when I do it, you're gonna understand. You'll understand why guys don't leave me. Like, her just pursuing this guy, and this guy looking at her saying, there's no way in hell I would ever do this. You could not possibly convince me to do this. What she thinks to herself is, that is a man that I currently do not control, and therefore I must control him. I must have control over men. I think that, again, not a doctor. I'm not trying to, like, apply some sort of psychiatric diagnosis here. But if you have daddy issues, you either have a dad that you hate or you have a dad that you never met, you probably genuinely don't have a lot of respect for men because the one that was supposed to take care of you refused to. So what are you going to have a vendetta against? Men, right? So I think that she has a complete and utter mission to control, manipulate, and destroy as many men as she can. And I don't even necessarily think she knows that that's her mission.
Yeah.
I think it's just something that's deep-rooted that she can't possibly get past. That's my assessment.
We're not psychiatrists. This is just our... I don't know what this is.
Again, just talking to this one specific girl, it was so weird to look her in the eye and talk to her.
I want to come back to that conversation, but let's just go back a little bit to the daddy issues. I think I found it.
Yeah.
So 139.
Sleep at night and wash my face and eat.
Yo, stop. Let's not derail the conversation.
So no principles, no real morals that you can stand by.
If I'm taking her to work, that is how you make money. if she would take me anywhere if I wrecked my car, and she used to.
Yeah.
She would let me stay on
her
the
personal
couch.
assistant. Okay, that's cool.
Wait, but can I say something? So like, this might be a little relevant, but like literally, like Zerka looks just like my dad, and he has the same name and like smokes the same cigarettes. And I genuinely think that's why I'm so attracted to him. Like,
Because he also abuses you a little bit.
Like verbally in like a hot way, like he's like, shut the fuck up, you like I can't say those words, but like like you bitch, blah blah blah, and I'm like,
because you have no standards.
But
you think
he
really
doesn't mean it. He doesn't mean it in like that kind of
guy that
way.
validates that.
He says it for like just like to be kind of funny,
And then
like,
he'll buy her like $300 worth of food, and then call her like the sweetest
you're the lowest of the low, and
it's
you
all a
need that to
joke
be your
to
reality.
him.
So you need a man to remind you of it.
Wait, so it's all a joke to him?
To him, no, like saying all those words.
No, her whole life is a joke.
That's
what this is really comes down to.
You're miserable. You're miserable, Dan.
This actually wasn't the part where you said it. I
But
think it might be.
that is another great clip because, again, like what am I essentially telling her? I am telling her you actually think this of yourself, and you're trying to find men who will treat you the way that you view yourself. Because if you can validate this to be your reality, you're just a what?
It's gonna start coming up on the. Our candle just went out. It's gonna start. Can you move that? It's gonna be really hot. It's gonna.
Okay. Well,
Can you fan that? No, with your hand. It's towards me too.
I can't even see it now.
Okay. All right. Just don't.
Yeah, when you have this view of yourself, and you can use who you think you are to get something out of your life, and in this case she can be like, well, at least I can like be like the naughty girl who like controls men through sex and like has fun and like does all this. Like, if you believe that to be your meaning in life, if you believe that that's what you were actually sent down here to do, and you can find men who are going to validate that by telling you you're just a rag, you're just a body, you're just a vessel for their pleasure, and then you can convince yourself that like it's okay that that's the case because that's what I love about myself. Mm-hmm. You see how twisted it becomes and how meaningless your life becomes? Just mundane. I'm just getting effed constantly by men who see me as nothing more than something they should F. That's it. So she's living an ideal life for how she sees herself.
I got the clip. It's at 18 minutes in.
How do you get fulfilled from this?
I am wired so differently because I have so many like
trauma.
Not trauma.
I'm going to take a guess.
Crazy little things in my head, and they just make me feel so loved.
I'm going to take a shot in the dark. Daddy issues?
Yeah.
Okay. Saw that coming from a mile away.
Divorce? Was there divorce?
There was so much.
Multiple divorces?
But like, you know what? I feel loved how I feel loved. If that's with too many dicks, like, so be it.
Just because it's not like normal to you and like what you expect, it's okay. Other people are happy doing different things.
Yeah.
You shouldn't shame them.
Yeah.
We should all love each other.
Some people get filled with love.
I think we should shame things.
What's wrong with that?
I think we should shame things.
That was like the best. That was your best moment of the podcast. I thought you had some good ones, but
I don't think I ended up posting it because I didn't like my follow up with the cigarettes thing. I don't think that was the strongest.
But that was but that was great. Like, and
I think we should shame things.
And that was our whole podcast. That was our whole previous podcast episode about Depp and Heard.
Yeah, we were talking about
socially ostracizing things, and it's again, we're just sort of highlighting some of the clips from this that a lot of you might not have seen, just to kind of shed some light on exactly what this panel was made up of. Because Bang stole the show with the Rage Quit, but if you watch the whole episode,
your first flea and tick pharmacy order.
Sorry, Jen, not flea and tick for you. If you watch the whole episode, you'll realize that Layla was the star of the fucking show, and it's because she had a response to everything. Because her responses didn't have to mean anything. Mm-hmm. So I'll never forget there was a clip.
She was quick.
Yeah, she was really, really quick. There was one clip.
But wait, can I just say her assistant? You had a lot to say about her assistant after the show.
Yeah.
We thought the assistant was actually very intelligent
and very based.
And just somehow in this situation.
Yeah. So I think is 20. I think she's 20 years old.
It seemed like she had a lot of like morals that she lived by too, but I don't know.
Can you go back to the clip where, not the one we just watched, the previous one, because right before we got that, we were talking to the tail end about how she was like the assistant, like, oh yeah, you're her assistant, we get it. I challenged her on what she did. Yes, this was
okay, so we're at 137.17.
So yeah, so this is where, again, this girl, for an hour and a half, we're talking to her, and she had a lot of really good things to say, and was pretty based. You saw her when Bangs rage quit. She was like, "If you're a feminist, you're a feminist." But like, I think you're just ignoring the fact that we've like come a long way and everybody's equal at this point. Like, she had a lot of really good things to say. She seemed like she had a decent head on her shoulders. But every once in a while, she would start talking about this stuff like mental health, and she would start talking about the industry and why girls are in it. And this was the point where she starts making the excuse that the reason these girls are in it is because it's a trauma thing. And then I challenge just her entire, basically the premise of her life, by being like, why do you help her do what she does?
Yeah,
and that's what it gets into.
Literally a sex worker, and I will not sleep with a guy on the first date, and I will need to see their true intentions if they actually want to be with me or not.
She does OnlyFans.
So they might absolutely.
Why do you help her do what she does?
Because she would do anything in the world.
Okay,
for
let's
me.
avoid that. Finish your point. Go ahead.
She would do anything, but like just because.
We've learned that.
Just because other people love sex, I swear, and I'm not even trying to say it in a shitty way, it is a trauma thing. It's a trauma thing. They did not get enough male validation growing up. No, they did not. And they
wait, it's traumatic to not get enough male validation.
Their father was not there, and that is a lot.
So why don't you help her get on the right path? Why don't you help her get on the right path then? If you care about her, then help her get on the right path.
Open up a foundation to like help men stay in the home.
I'm helping a foundation for mental health. I'm not here to help like sex workers. I'm here to help people who actually have a mental health that is exploding. Like she said at the beginning, she was fucked up.
Which I'm not judging, but she said she was fucked up.
I tell her all the time, like
you're allowing this to happen.
But like my mother, she's a grown woman. She
I don't
is
think it's your responsibility. And you're the one, and you're enabling her.
I'm her work assistant. I take her to work. Leave. Why would I leave her?
Whoa. We got to chat here.
Who is Zerka? I want to put out there first off and foremost, I hope y'all know that just because I work under her, it does not define my life at all. I am a human outside of working for her.
If I was in
I think Layla was getting a little annoyed at the assistant throughout. Sometimes she would say something kind of based, and Layla would be like, wait, she thinks that?
So
if I was an assassin and you were my assistant,
I would go home and sleep at night and wash my face and eat.
Yo, stop.
There it is.
Got it. So no principles, no real morals that you can stand by.
If I'm taking her to work, that is how you make money. If she would take me anywhere if I wrecked my car, and she used to.
Yeah.
She would let me stay on the couch.
Yeah, so you can pause it there. So, like, again, that was probably the one moment where I really, really kind of hit the gas pedal with her to try to get her to kind of like get out of that, but she wasn't ready to kind of go down those different avenues. And also Brian was clearly trying to move that shit along. That could have been a really, really interesting conversation if he had let that keep going. But yeah, for the most part, that girl was actually like oddly based in a lot of the shit she was talking about. But I think the point that I made to you on the way home was, if I ever had to take like a 3-hour drive somewhere and I could just get her to like sit in the passenger seat for 3 hours, I feel like that girl's life could be completely 180'd.
Yeah.
Because she's primed to live life the right way. And I don't mean that to sound conceited, like I have all the answers. I just mean there is, to put it in somewhat religious terms, there's a righteous path to head down in life. And I think a lot of us agree for the most part on what that path is. And it doesn't involve the things that she's currently setting off in, and definitely not the things that she's assisting in. So for the way that her brain works, for the most part, it shocks me that she can't figure out a way out of this. But I don't know, maybe there's some hope. Maybe.
Anyway, there's a couple times where Layla was a little annoyed with me. The one where I don't have the timestamp.
Oh, that was awesome, actually. The part about the degrees.
Mm-hmm.
That was so funny.
You can explain it, and then I'm going to bring the full circle with the last clip.
So funny. So we talked about how she was actually really sharp. We were making that point before we dove into this. Layla was really intelligent. Heartless, soulless, meaningless in many of the things she was saying, but fucking fast on her feet. I remember she would say things to Brian where she would say like some kind of compliment, like she would say something to him and then he'd be like, no, like I'm just like I'm not being humble, like I'm fine. And then she would say something like, then why can't you look me in the eye when I compliment you? Like just like putting the pressure on him. There was another time where you started to make a point about your followers' take on girls in the industry. And when you said...
She was saying that men like a girl with experience. And I was like, well, having the experience of having a lot of male followers telling me what they want, they don't want that.
But the words you used were, I can tell you right now, it's incredibly unattractive what you do. And she said, oh, honey, that's okay. I'm not trying to sleep with women. Like, she was fast. Like, she was really, really witty. Like, I didn't even pick up on what she said until, like, a couple seconds later when she had to go back at you again. So, very intelligent. And I think knows she's smart. I think that's why she's kind of using her intelligence, her control, her manipulation to really, really try to get a stranglehold on certain men. I think that's really what her MO is. But...
You wonder, like, who... I wonder what their management team's like. Like, if these girls are not intelligent, they can be taken advantage of financially.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And
so I hope they're intelligent.
So the point that I was going to make about you though is, or sorry, the point that I was going to make about
let me go back on that.
And you.
I'm not saying that they should be making a lot of money. I'm just hoping they're intelligent enough to not sign a contract that gets them screwed in life.
Right. Well, these are probably the types of girls who are being taken advantage of by men more than anybody else. So, but I forget what it was that you said. But you said something on something suggestive, maybe about her. Like maybe there was something about education thrown in there, and then there was something about money, and then. I don't even really know what it was that you said. I think it was earlier in the episode. It was way earlier in the episode than that.
No, I'm getting something else.
But basically, something struck a nerve with her where she felt like somebody wasn't respecting her intelligence, and she decided that it was you.
Yeah.
And then she said, do you really want to flex right now? Because I could flex on you if I want to.
With her
and then she said, what degrees do you have? And Billy Ray was like, I have degrees too. And she was like, yeah, what degrees? And then they went back and forth about what it was and all this. And it was just like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, there's nothing to this. But what's funny is that was almost like her one moment of weakness on the show. Was the one moment where she felt like maybe she wasn't the baddest bitch sitting at the table. The one moment where she felt like maybe there was a girl who was a little bit prettier, a little bit more accomplished, maybe a little bit more successful. Like maybe.
I don't think she was intimidated by looks. The girl's beautiful.
Yeah, that is true. She was a beautiful girl, which again makes it very sad.
Yeah.
But again, I would love to talk to this girl again. I would love to talk to her again.
I think the girl in the tan shirt with the dark hair that's the one that's about to get upset right now, I think she was the most gorgeous one on the panel. She was just a natural beauty.
I think that you and her were both
you're obligated to say that, baby.
I'm not obligated, baby.
All right.
You're absolutely gorgeous.
Let's wrap this up with 3 hours and 5 minutes into the podcast where Layla starts making some moaning noises at you. I don't know what the hell she's doing. She's doing some stuff, and the girl in the tan. Let me see if I could figure out her name in the description because I hate referring to her as the tan girl. Is it Katie?
It was probably Kate.
I don't know. Whatever her name is, she got upset for me because Layla was making these advances at Dan.
This was the faces from earlier, right? We're like,
and like,
yeah,
it just never crossed my mind to say anything about it because, and this was another thing that came to bite me in the ass after because I was like, I can't win. I say something and then I'm insecure. I don't say something. I don't care about my relationship. And then I was like, well, if I, and then everybody was like saying in the chat, like, no, we would defend you. if you said something. And then I was like talking about even saying the concept of saying something, and they were like, well, you're insecure for saying something about being worried about saying something. And I was like, I can't even,
the internet's undefeated.
I can't win. So I'd rather
strength
just
in numbers, somebody's going to come over the top.
Elegantly and just not give a shit.
You did the right thing.
Yeah.
I didn't care
So
either.
I never said anything because I just like, it was honestly funny to me. I thought it was funny.
Well, the other thing is,
I thought she was kind of funny.
With all the shit that you and I get told through screens every single fucking day.
Like, this girl it was just nothing to me. Like, I thought it was, I was like getting a live comedy show in front of me. So this was the girl's reaction.
Morals, but I think it is so disrespectful that you are looking at him and saying, you turned me on with Billy sitting right there. I know she.
Wait, Billy? Yeah, where's Billy?
Okay, I know she doesn't feel threatened. Of course she doesn't feel threatened.
I mean, as a joke.
But it's also like, if my boyfriend was sitting right next to me and some girl was like, you're turning me on, I would be so
wait till we leave. I just think it's funny. I do think it's funny.
And I know you're not threatened.
I think I could get that back from you, but honestly, I would stop if it was.
I think it's funny. I'm just gonna end it with, I know you're not threatened, but I would be so pissed, and you're like being very graceful right now.
Disgusting.
Yeah,
What would you do?
You want me to
slap a
but
bitch?
no, I'm not that person, but I would.
Can you say that with your chest?
Very confrontational because that's so disrespectful.
I mean, it was kind of her. It was nice.
Yeah. Well,
that was actually, what's it called? I'm a girl's girl. I'm sure this girl seems like a genuine girl's girl.
Yeah. Well, I also think that it's actually a very healthy observation because the show is sort of built around like drama and like arguments across the table. And like that, I think, was actually a very real moment where, again, you and I, and again, this is something where unless you feel like you have like a calling to do something with social media, to like fight a certain battle, stay off. Like the amount of shit that we have, that I don't want to say we have to deal with, but the amount of stuff that comes our way.
We're lucky that this is the type of stuff that we deal with in life, though.
Yeah. Like it's, so when somebody tries to threaten our relationship,
what we deal with is very different than the typical job.
Yes, but
it's something that a lot of people can't understand until you're doing it. And I think it's what Brian talked about in the beginning of the show when he said, you know, guys come on and they what was the term he used?
They choke.
They choke. And I think a lot of people do feel like that they can confront these issues in person on the spot on a podcast like this. And I'll be the first person to say, I choke on this podcast. That's why I don't want to do the podcast anymore. I get there and I have nothing to say. That's why I like filming shit in my own home. Like, this is not my setting.
But on top of that, like, just to the point of like what we deal with day to day versus what other people deal with day to day. Think about like
Sorry, I just want to know.
No. I think that your point was completely oh my god, I was about to say valid, which is the other thing that this bitch would not stop saying. No, valid. No, like valid. Oh, everything's valid. Again, no meaning. But anyway, like, think about office culture where it's ingrained in you to walk on eggshells. You don't say the wrong thing. You watch your mouth on the off chance that someone could take something the wrong way, let alone actually speak your mind on something. Then you start doing this where you basically make a living speaking your mind on certain things. Then people who don't need to put their face to their name will go online and try to obliterate you with their own opinions, not just about the subject, but about you. And you have no idea who you're talking to, and they can say anything they want because they'll never get caught. That's a huge difference in how it plays out. So when a girl looks across the table at me on a dating podcast and insinuates that I'm, turning her on by telling her that I'm repulsed by the way that she lives her life, you're not going to hear her say that and be like, that's the worst thing I heard today. Yeah. Or I can't believe I'm hearing something like that. Yeah. It's like she sees girls accuse my mother of doing things to me that you could not possibly imagine. Billy Ray sees that on a daily basis. A girl doing something like this is not even going to remotely make her blink. But nonetheless, to the point of this and what I assume it's Kate was saying, it is kind of good to see the outsider who's not a part of the social media sphere see something like this occur and have a very normal reaction that someone who is a loving girlfriend of a loving boyfriend would have as empathy for a girl who was currently going through it.
You also kind of have to distance. I feel like I don't know how to say this correctly, and we'll end on this note. I feel like in order to protect your relationship when it's public on social media, you have to not make it like a spectacle. And I feel like something like that would be making our relationship like entertainment for other people. And I know that's kind of what this podcast is, but like creating drama around your relationship just to get a reaction. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I have a point and I can't articulate it.
I think what Billy Ray's trying to say, I'm going to mansplain this.
Almost like you have to like distance your relationship from social media.
Well, I think the point you're making is that you don't want to be a performative couple.
Yeah.
You don't want, like, our mission when we leave the house is not to put on the display of like the perfect young traditional couple who is just like perfectly aligned on anything. And look, they have this amazing like online presence that they do together. Look how perfect they are. No, like, we're two people who love each other. When we leave the house, sometimes we're holding hands, sometimes we have our arm around each other, sometimes we're not holding hands at all, sometimes we're dressed up, sometimes we're not dressed up, sometimes you're wearing makeup, you're not wearing makeup. Like, we're not putting on any sort of image, we're literally just going out and living our life. So in that situation, you didn't feel anything by what she was saying, and therefore you didn't react. You're not looking for an excuse to like turn yourself into girlfriend of the year on a public sphere. So yeah, I think everything that me and Billy Ray do is pretty raw. Just when we get onto these platforms, we're not trying to do anything. We're not trying to send any weird messages to people, and we're definitely not trying to put on a show or a facade. So I think that is a good note to end on. But yeah, just wanted to give you guys the recap. I thought it would be interesting to kind of give you guys our take on what happened, and you can kind of understand a little bit about what our mindset was like going into it and during and all that. But we'll get back to some more original content.
We have a lot to talk about.
In the next one, we still have a lot of...
we still have to talk about marriage.
Yeah, we do.
So, yeah, I am going to go to bed and edit this on the plane tomorrow and post it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. We'll see you when we get back.